What's life like inside the world's biggest prison? To find out, you don't have to commit any crime. You just have to be born in Gaza.
We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no gas. It's all closed.
On Saturday, Israeli forces conducted a daytime raid on the Nusayrat refugee camp.
For residents of Nusayrat, central Gaza, the scale of destruction from Saturday's raid is overwhelming.
The airstrikes were everywhere. The people were running in fear.
It claims 274 Palestinians were killed, another almost 700 injured.
Well, Israeli forces killed at least 274 Palestinians during the operation to free 4 captives. Large parts of al-Nusayrat refugee camp were destroyed. Hundreds of people were injured.
Was Gaza formed? Is what we call Gaza really Gaza? There's a short story and there is an interesting story. The short story is Israel occupied lands illegally and forced people from their homes, destroyed their farms and pushed people out. Now these people, many of them went to Gaza as refugees and they have been living there ever since. But was it always this small strip of land, or is there more to this than what is told to you? While researching, I found some astonishing details and some mind-blowing truths. And that is the interesting story. And this is everything you need to know about Gaza. What is Gaza Strip? Was it always the same? Gaza is a small piece of land that measures just 21 miles in length and 7.5 miles at its widest, with a population of 2.1 million, except not anymore. More than 120,000 people are affected by this war. Almost 37,000 people have been butchered by Israel at the time of recording this video, and the rest are under the rubble. This particular land is now known as Gaza Strip, but that is not what it was called originally. Let's look at the geography of this area to prove that point. This is the crux of the video, so do not miss this part. And this is where you will know the exact reason why Gaza has often been called an open-air prison. Northern part is northern Gaza. Jabalia is a major area here, and Jabalia camp is in this area. Then comes Gaza, where Gaza city is located with Shati camp. Next is Deir al-Balah, which is also called the middle area. This area houses Deir al-Balah city with several camps, including Deir al-Balah camp, Nusayrat camp, Al-Maghzi camp. Nusayrat camp is the same camp where more than 270 were recently killed by Israeli special forces, if that's what you want to call them. Then comes Khan Yunis, followed by Rafah. This is where the famous Rafah crossing is with the Egyptian border. This entire area is now fenced with hard wire and a huge wall surrounding the north and eastern areas. Several watchtowers are placed around this area to keep an eye on the movement of people. Now this is important. There are so-called buffer zones and no-go zones across these lines, and these zones extend into the Palestinian territory and nobody is allowed to enter in that zone. This is imposed upon the people of Gaza by the Israeli occupying forces, and there are several instances where people are shot for entering these zones. Along with these, there are few entry points through which goods required for life to exist are transported, and these two are dedicated. For example, Aris crossing is for Palestinian workers and humanitarian aid workers. Nahal crossing is for the entry of liquid fuels. This is Gaza Strip, and now you know why it is called the open-air prison. Now let's answer the earlier question. Has Gaza always been this small piece of land? The answer is no. There was a huge chunk of land both to the north and to the southeast of Gaza. In the north, it ran parallel to Jerusalem. That's how big it was. And in the south, it extended till the huge Negev desert, till Al-Auja province. The famous port of Ashdod was once part of Palestine, which was occupied by IOF post 1948. And it was previously called Al-Isdod. The same was the case with the southeastern part of Gaza. Don't believe me. Just look at the 1948 map of division of states. And now look at the map of UN armistice reached in 1948 post-war. So now you know the real history, the entire stretch of the land and how it was occupied. But a question people always ask, why is Gaza overpopulated? And frankly, we will not do justice to Gaza without answering this question. So we will answer that question now, and listen carefully as I will share some critical details of how Gaza was treated. Was Gaza always inhabited by millions of people, and were they all Arabs? Well, Gaza was not always so densely populated place, but post-1948, Zionist militia, the Haganah, under the command of Ben-Gurion, started attacking Philistines and forced them out of their homes, destroyed their properties, burned their crops. Many of these people were driven down to south, to Gaza. Over 750,000 people lost their homes, their livelihood, their identity. This was Nakba. Now, post-1967 war, Israel had complete control over Gaza Strip. It had military presence around and within the territory. The people had no right. In fact, they were called foreign residents or non-citizens in the official documents. And I'm not saying this. This is as per Norwegian Refugee Council's report. Israel even controlled the movement of people outside Gaza to West Bank and to Israel itself.
Even before Hamas took control of Gaza, Israel had subjected the territory to a closure since the 1990s. This meant that Palestinians could rarely enter or exit Gaza.
Gazans were not allowed to operate their own airport or seaport. And yes, Gaza had its own airport, which was eventually destroyed by IOF, as we will see in a few minutes. But Israel did something even bigger that triggered the people of Gaza. They started building their settlements in Gaza. Can you believe that? And this went on for decades. People were not allowed to move freely. Their food supplies were controlled. Most people lived under bare minimum wages and had no rights as citizens of the country. Unlike Jews who were living in Gaza by now and were flourishing under the government aid. What happens when you see different set of people flourishing while you are suffering? And when you curb people, frisk them, arrest them for no reason, it has its limits. And then the barriers were broken. By 1987, this frustration had reached the boiling point. It only needed a push. And that was done by Israeli troops. Their truck crashed into a civilian car, killing 4 Philistines. They say it was done on purpose. And this was it. People now revolted in huge numbers. There was unrest everywhere. Israel now could not control this outburst. This was the first Intifada. And in the same year, Hamas was founded. It was earlier called Mujama al-Islamiyya, which was funded by Israel. A separate video on Hamas is in making, so do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get the notification once the video is uploaded. And that will be quite a video. Now, while Hamas was not in direct control of Gaza post-Intifada, Hamas started attacking Israelis. By the time Intifada ended, they had killed 118 Israelis, and Israelis had killed 1,024 Palestinians. That's almost 1:10 ratio. Then came Oslo Accords. Oslo Accords ensured Intifada ended. Palestinian Liberation Organization signed it with the Israeli government. Again, a separate video for PLO is upcoming. Now, under the terms of the Accords, PLO decided to disarm and recognize Israel. However, Hamas rejected this Oslo Accords. Now, a new governing body with limited authority was formed. It was called the PA, or the Palestinian Authority. Now, one of the major points of the Oslo Accords was Palestine will be a free state in 5 years. However, that never happened. What do you expect from them? Israeli Prime Minister Rabin was assassinated by Israeli Jewish extremists.
At 11:10 p.m. as an outcome of murderous criminal assassination attempt, the Prime Minister of Israel and the Minister of Defense, Mr. Yitzhak Rabin, passed away.
Now this was followed by appointment of Benjamin Netanyahu as the Prime Minister. As we all know, he did not believe in taking concrete measures with PLO. On the contrary, he openly spoke against the Oslo Accords.
Abandon the fantasy that you will conquer Jerusalem.
This was followed by building more settlements in Gaza, and now a wall was being built around Gaza. There were several incidents that led to the Second Intifada. I will make a separate video on both First and Second Intifada going into detail, but due to these incidents, people in West Bank took up protests against Israeli occupation, fighting for their rights. By the time the Second Intifada ended, more than 3,000 Philistines had lost their lives. Israel withdrew all Israeli settlements and now built a much stronger wall around Gaza. It set up multiple watchtowers, bringing Gaza Strip under permanent blockade, as you see now. Israel controls Gaza completely. Gazan airspace, Gazan sea, Gazan land, all are under Israeli control. Flow of any goods in and out of Gaza undergoes several checkpoints and only enters once Israel approves it. Over 70% of the population do not have access to clean water. Over 50% of Gazans are children. It is one of the most unemployed areas in the world. People from Gaza are not allowed to go to West Bank or anywhere else in the world. The promise made in the Oslo Accords of a free Philistine state in 5 years was never fulfilled. People living in Gaza are stateless in their own land. Even those who need special treatment are not allowed to go out of Gaza. People in Gaza are living a slow death and dying through a painful life. Would you believe me if I told you Israel even counts the number of calories required to maintain life at bare minimum and only allow supplies as per that? Several humanitarian organizations like Amnesty International has called this blockade as illegal and inhumane. All of this for decades. The people in Gaza have suffered an insufferable fate at the hands of Israel. Their children with cancer cannot leave to get treatment, and hospitals always worked at the mercy of Israel, UN, and many other aid workers. Gazan parents watch their children die. Gazan children watch their parents being murdered mercilessly in broad daylight after years of not being able to breathe freely, not being able to drink clean water, after depending on aid for bare minimum, after being blown to bits, after being a boiling pot for decades. The world looked the other way, and when finally the boiling water spilled, they say,
"Do you condemn Hamas?"
If you've reached here, please like and share the video, because if you do, YouTube suggests it to other people who are like-minded so they can also learn that Gaza was not always the same. It only takes one click from you, but it motivates me to do more videos like this. Also, if you want to watch the history of Palestine, the link is in the description and I will attach it here. Do watch the video and share the video with your friends. Assalamu alaikum.